After being X-Men fan for years, we can say one thing for certain: there's nothing as annoying as the damned Sentinels. These humongous monsters have been a mainstay in the comics for quite a few decades now, but somehow they just keep getting more threatening. Nothing exemplifies this more than the topic of this marvelous video, Mother Mold. This entity, crafted out of cutting-edge technology, is about the size of your average celestial body, and to be honest, that isn't even the scariest thing about this mutant killer. For a Sentinel head orbiting the sun, the Mother Mold is actually a pretty immediate threat to our X-Men, which you'll soon see through the course of this marvelous video. Before we move on, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It might be just a small click for you, but for us it means an awful lot. Now with that out of the way, let's dive right in. The making of the Mother Mold. So Sentinels have existed in the Marvel Universe for quite some time now. The crimson hunks of metal serve as towering embodiments of humanity's hatred towards the mutant kind and are a primary threat to the X-Men. Over the years, the murderous machines have evolved and grown even more malicious, gaining technology that's actually far ahead of anything the rest of the planet can even imagine. But even among the numerous versions we've seen over the years, the Master Mold clearly stands out. We first encountered this humongous Sentinel forge in the pages of House of X issue number 1, created by Jonathan Hickman and Pepe Larraz. Hickman himself has laid down the hierarchy of Sentinels in the pages of his story, classifying the Sentinels into various classes. The most basic version of this robotic monster is the Alpha class, ranging from models Mark 1 to Mark 8. These are mostly commonplace and one can find them everywhere, especially in the early X-Men adventures. Then comes the Master Mold, a self-aware Sentinel factory that features technology that can adapt to even the most complex of battle scenarios. This allows them to create endless Sentinel drones until the enemy inevitably perishes. So what could be better than a self-aware Sentinel factory? Duh, a self-aware factory that can produce self-aware Sentinel factories. A bit of simplification, but that's exactly what the Mother Mold does. It produces master molds that can create Sentinel drones, but more importantly, it is also capable of improving Sentinel technology to its ultimate potential. Now, before we get there, let's take a look at how the Mother Mold came to be. The X-Men are no strangers to secret underground cults that want to stop the next step in human evolution, that is, the mutants. The group of renegade human scientists known as Orchis have similar goals, and its members are actually pretty dedicated to stopping mutants from ascending over humanity and technology. Now, the head of Orchis' research and development is a brilliant scientific mind named Dr. Alia Gregor, but she isn't really the nicest person ever. Alia's infallible research is proof enough that mutants will sooner or later supplant humans as the species on top of the evolutionary chain, and that doesn't really sit well with many, as we already know. This is basically the seed from which Orchis sprang forward, but the group came into action only after a pretty significant event that sent its ripples across the Marvel Universe. When certain actions by Professor X forced the human powers on Earth to acknowledge the sovereignty of Krakoa, a nation crafted out of a living island in the Pacific Ocean, Orchis wasn't really happy, since the group was already convinced that given enough space to prosper, the mutants would always take over the planet. They put into action the Orchis Protocols. By the time House of X came around, Orchis had grown even more powerful than ever before. Since the Marvel Universe is a place for massive incursion by other worlds and dimensions crashing into each other are like an average Wednesday, Tony Stark designed a piece of technology called Soul's Hammer to defend Earth during a particular crisis. Pun intended, after that story arc was dusted, the remains of this massive solar-powered weapon unfortunately ended up with Orchis. Of course, they used this as a tool to satiate their desire for mutant annihilation by creating a gigantic forge by the sun. Quite a hot location for a new workspace, I guess. The forge looks like a Sentinel head retrofitted with its Soul Hammer technology. Now that we have had an understanding of who made the Mother Mold and why, let's take a look at its story arc in the comics. Mother Mold's marvelous story arc. The story of the sentient forge that is Mother Mold begins in issue number 1 of House of X. In depths of space, we find Orchis officers flying towards the sun. There is a dark structure floating just beside a flaming ball of fire, and the two agents in the spacecraft talk about a mysterious forge. As the spacecraft nears the structure, we see that the thing is easily the size of a small planet. The men inside allow the spaceship across to the station, and we see Dr. Gregor enter the Orchis Forge. Dr. Gregor and her underling Karima make it through the insides of the solar power station, and we soon find ourselves face to face with a titanic head floating in space. Meanwhile, on Earth, the mutants Mystique, Toad, and Sabretooth have broken into a contested storage facility owned by the scavenging corporation Damage Control. From the databases inside the facility, they are able to retrieve data that could prove to be the key to this whole thing, but in a typical comic book fashion, they are promptly apprehended by the Thing and Human Torch. Also, all of this has taken place when the mutant nation of Krakoa is just beginning to make itself known as a terrifying new power on the face of the Earth, headed by none other than Professor X and Magneto. This is perhaps one of those few times in the comics when it's the mutants calling shots over the rest of humanity. In the very next chapter, which is mostly dedicated to Moira McTaggart's backstory, we'll learn another troubling fact. So it turns out that Moira, whom most of us thought to be a human ally to the mutants, is actually a mutant herself. Moira's power, however, is a bit subtler than laser eyes or angel wings. Moira's secret power is revealed to be reincarnation. This allowed the special agent to live multiple lives, retaining the memories and experiences of her former births every time she was reborn. Moira initially set out to cure the mutant gene, wanting to make everyone human again. But after a particularly nasty encounter with a clairvoyant mutant called Destiny, Moira had a change of heart and begins to empathize with the mutant cause. It is during her fourth birth that she finds the X-Men and encounters Xavier's ideals. However, Moira's extensive experience also provides us with a glimpse of the threat that Sentinel technology could pose to the world. The murderous robots created by Bolivar Trask could literally annihilate every single human if given the opportunity, but despite killing every single member of the Trask family, Sentinel tech remained ever evolving, and with AI, they were now more lethal than ever. More than anything, this flashback also provides us with a glimpse of Nimrod during Moira's time as Apocalypse's aide. Nimrod is a nigh indestructible sentinel made out of nanoparticles, essentially the greatest known variant of the robots, a primal threat to the long-term survival of humans. Now in her 10th life, Moira finally confronts Professor X and tells him all the truth about her various human lives, alerting him to the danger posed by the Mother Mold. Fearing that the completion of Master Mold's development could result in the birth of a Nimrod Sentinel, Magneto and Professor X convince Cyclops to lead frankly one of the more dangerous missions the team have had in a while. Cyclops prepares a small team to take care of the Orcus Forge, which includes Wolverine, Husk, Archangel, Jean Grey, Penance, and Mystique. The team departs for the Solar Station, and the small army of Orcus agents on board soon senses them approaching. Despite being caught off guard, Dr. Gregor launches a horde of modified Sentinels at our heroes, but the team soon learns that the most threatening of these robotic monsters is inside with Dr. Gregor. Karima is an Omega Sentinel and an extremely powerful variant of the machines, which deduces that the X-Men seek to attack the four collars holding up the Sentinel head, which is the Orcus Forge. Erasmus, Dr. Gregor's partner, also realizes the immediate threat posed by the X-Men, zeroing in on their decision, and responds in quite a drastic fashion. The head of security sets off an explosive charge that does way more damage than the average explosion, and a burst of blue flames consumes the X-Men's vessel. Back on Krakoa, Magneto and Professor X are trying to keep tabs on the mission from the observation deck. Suddenly, a distraught Jean reveals the massive damage incurred by the team during the blast. Archangel and Husk were killed. Nightcrawler sustained internal damage, and Wolverine, well, he's Wolverine, he's fine. The rest of the team begins to rally and move into the strategic spots from where the Forge's collar could be destroyed. Of course, their path ahead is filled with battles, but somehow they're able to break the massive pillars holding the head from falling into the sun. However, the costs are heavy. Mystique dies at the hands of Dr. Gregor, while Wolverine and Nightcrawler sacrifice themselves to destroy the last witch. Later, in the aftermath of the battle, even the first X-Men, Cyclops and Jean are killed. So yeah, it's quite a massacre for mutants and humans alike. It is interesting to note that before the Mother Mold is destroyed, it comes online for a couple of minutes. The humans, in a desperate last move, turn on the Mother Mold, not knowing whether it will be sane or not. The massive metal head rambles about how the mutants and humans are guilty, thus vowing to destroy both. This is a brief glimpse into the basic principle that this forge functions on, and even makes it evident that it is beyond the control of both humans and mutants. Fortunately, the X-Men succeed in their suicidal mission before Mother Mold can gain full consciousness, and everything just tumbles down into the massive flames of the sun. The death seems pretty definitive, but come on, it's Marvel Comics, and we all know that nothing ever dies. Well, except for Uncle Ben. Powers and abilities of the Mother Mold. Peak technology. The Mother Mold is plainly put the epitome of machinery, or rather, it's the only thing that's capable of producing the true epitome, the Nimrod Sentinel. It's evident even from the few moments it spends awake that the Mother Mold is unlike anything we've ever seen, as it quickly discerns its own path. It almost makes it feel like the machines are their own being beyond the scope of organic life forms. Also, as this entity exists near the freaking sun, it's pretty safe to say it can endure even the harshest of conditions, and that is genuinely a level of endurance that even the Hulk would be jealous of. Sentinel control. On a physical level, however, the Master Mold seemed incapable of protecting itself, but it's certain that given the time to come to full power, it would be able to commandeer Sentinels as guards. The Mother Mold is almost technopathically connected to endless Sentinel drones when functioning at full capacity. Nimrod in development, the Mother Mold is unique in the way it can upgrade itself, as it's clearly stated to be the most adaptable forge we have ever seen. Theoretically, it can upgrade to the point where it develops nano-sentinels that surpass anything that the Master Molds could ever create. This would eventually give it the means to create the all-powerful Nimrod series Sentinel by upgrading every subsequent version it would fabricate. Tendril generation. Despite its limited ability to protect itself, the Mother Mold does seem capable of protecting itself by shooting out prehensile tendrils, which we saw her use while battling Wolverine in the last moments of the comic. Still, the tendrils are pretty easy to rip through, as the old Berserker clearly demonstrated before falling into the sun. Marvelous verdict. So, the Mother Mold is definitely a unique addition to a seriously long line of Sentinels we have seen in the comics. It's also interesting in the manner that the threat posed by it, at least in the House of X, is mostly implied. It would have been great to see this marvel of technology land a few blows of its own, but that's a story for another time. Now, before you guys go, please let us know what X-Men villain you'd like us to cover next in our comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on all our Marvelous videos. Well then, that's it for now. We'll catch you in the next one.